My husband? He's a clueless idiot. He'll never figure out my affairs. That was the sentence that changed everything. I was standing outside room 14 of a cheap motel, phone recording, my heart pounding like a war drum. I hadn't planned to confront her this way. But hearing Madison's voice through the door, mocking me, bragging about how easily she was getting away with it, it set something off inside me. Inside, she laughed. Brent, relax. He still thinks I'm going to hot yoga. He's so dumb it's honestly cute. She had no clue I was right outside. Listening. Recording. Processing the full scale of betrayal. I could have burst in. I could have screamed, shattered everything. But no. That wasn't the play. Not yet. I turned and walked away. Cold. Focused. Because this wasn't just infidelity. This was war. Let me rewind. 3 days earlier, everything was normal, or at least, I thought it was. Madison kissed me goodbye that morning like she always did. She said she was meeting her friend Claire for brunch. But Claire texted me an hour later to ask if Madison was feeling better, because apparently, Madison had cancelled. That was red flag number 1. I didn't panic. I watched. Observed. She was always busy lately. Always tired. Always glued to her phone, but her screen flipped every time I walked past. She started locking her phone, something she'd never done in 5 years of marriage. I noticed her perfume changed. Her clothes started showing more skin. So I did what any man with a gut feeling would do. I followed her. On Tuesday, she left at 7:30 p.m. Yoga bag over her shoulder. Said she'd be gone 2 hours. I trailed her from 2 cars back. She didn't go to the gym. She didn't meet a friend. She drove straight to the Valley Inn on 8th. A low-rent motel with peeling paint and flickering neon. Room 14. She knocked, smiled when the door opened, and kissed the man inside like he was her husband, not me. I stayed in the car. I watched. I felt the rage boil beneath my skin. Not because she cheated, but because of the smirk on her face when she did. She wasn't ashamed. She was proud of how easily she fooled me. So I went home. Ordered a mini voice recorder that could pick up sounds through thin motel walls. The next night, I was back. Hidden. Recording. Listening. That's when I got the gold. My husband's a naive idiot. He'll never find out. I could do this every week, and he'd still buy me roses. The next morning, I played her voice back to myself over coffee. I looked at our wedding photo on the mantel, then at the woman herself, sleeping peacefully like nothing was wrong. She had no idea what I knew. And I wasn't going to tell her. Yet. Because when I strike, I want her to feel it. Not just the betrayal, but the reversal. I want her to see the clueless idiot turn into the ghost of her downfall. You see, Madison didn't just cheat on me. She underestimated me. And that was her biggest mistake. The morning after I recorded her betrayal, everything looked the same on the surface. Madison walked into the kitchen in her silk robe, humming like she hadn't spent last night whispering poison into another man's ear. I watched her pour coffee like she had nothing to hide, smiling, joking, pressing a soft kiss on my cheek. I smiled back. Let her think I was still in the dark. Let her believe her little game was bulletproof. But while she stirred her cappuccino, I was stirring something else, a plan. I started small. Subtle things to throw her off just a little. Changed the password on our shared Netflix account. Weird, she muttered. Did you change something? I shrugged. Nope. Must be a bug. Then I stopped leaving my phone unlocked. I took calls in the garage. I started working late. I wanted her to feel a shift, just enough to nudge her into slipping up. She did. That Thursday, she told me she was having a girls' night with Claire. I didn't flinch. I didn't call her out. I just said, "Have fun, babe," and gave her a kiss on the forehead. 10 minutes after she left, I texted Claire. Tell me the truth. Is Madison really with you tonight? Claire, no. I haven't talked to her since last week. Why? Gotcha. Now I had a pattern, witnesses, recordings, and motive. I wasn't just building a confrontation, I was building a case. Every lie she told, every smirk she gave, every mile she put on her car, I logged it. It wasn't about catching her. I already had that. It was about crushing her. I called my lawyer, Daniel. I need to prepare for divorce, I said flatly. He asked, infidelity? Worse, I said. Mockery. Repeated. Documented. And recorded. He told me to play it smart, keep gathering. Don't explode. Not yet. I was ahead of him. I already had Brent's license plate. I found out where he worked, some pathetic gym trainer at a discount fitness center. I even followed him once just to get a look at the man who thought he was outplaying me. I expected a tall, alpha type. What I got was a walking cliché, protein shakes, tribal tattoo, and a beard that screamed insecurity. He was a walking midlife crisis. And Madison was treating him like he was her escape hatch. So I planned the trap. Saturday night, I booked a second motel room, right next to theirs. Room 15. I had one of those pinhole cameras from a tech site delivered same day. Drilled a tiny hole into the drywall shared between our rooms, just enough for the lens to see through. Microphone on. Recorder rolling. Lights off. I waited. And at 8:02 p.m., the stars aligned. Brent showed up first. 5 minutes later, Madison appeared, red dress again, the one I bought her for our anniversary last year. She looked giddy, like a teenager sneaking out of her house. She knocked on the door and whispered something I couldn't catch. He let her in. She giggled. And then I heard it. Her voice, soft and smug, "Don't worry. My husband's a naive idiot. He'll never figure out my affairs." Click. Saved. That sentence, right there, was the death certificate of our marriage. But I still didn't confront her. I wanted her to drown in the comfort of her lies. I wanted her to keep thinking she was winning. Because the longer she lived in her illusion, the harder it would hit when I shattered it. On Sunday morning, I cooked her breakfast. Bacon, eggs, avocado toast, the works. "You're in a good mood," she said with a grin. "I'm just grateful," I said. "For everything." She smiled. "Ah, babe." I smiled back. Because her fall was already in motion. And by the time she realized it, it would be too late. The next move had to be public. I didn't want just justice, I wanted a reckoning. Quiet revenge might satisfy a bruised ego, but public exposure? That crushes the soul. And Madison deserved every ounce of what was coming. She had no idea that the lies she told with a giggle were about to become her ruin. She thought I was still that same loyal, predictable husband, the kind who brings her flowers after she spent the night with another man. She was still sipping from that fantasy, unaware that her kingdom was built on a trap door. The following week, we had dinner planned at my parents' house. I invited Claire and her husband, a few close friends, even Madison's sister, Jenny. Madison was thrilled. "It'll be fun," she chirped, painting her nails with the same hand she used to caress Brent's chest just nights ago. "Tyler's finally being social again," she said to Jenny, laughing. "Maybe I broke his introvert shell." She didn't know I was about to break something else entirely. Saturday came fast. She wore white. White. To a dinner with family, after crawling out of motel sheets like a serpent. I said nothing. Just smiled, dressed up, and drove us both there like a perfect gentleman. Dinner was lively. Wine flowing. Laughter bouncing off the walls. Madison was glowing. But I wasn't watching her, I was watching the room. The people who believed in us. The one she'd lied to with a straight face. And then came the toast. I stood up. Glass in hand. Everyone quieted. Madison looked at me, slightly tipsy, expecting some sweet story or maybe a cheesy joke. She had no idea what was coming. I want to say something, I began. To Madison. She smiled, hand on her chest. Ah, babe. I held up a finger. Let me finish. Everyone's attention was locked. Even Jenny raised an eyebrow. For years. I thought I had the perfect wife, I said. Beautiful, smart, loyal, or so I believed. But life has a way of stripping away illusions. Of pulling back the curtain. I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit play. Madison's voice filled the room, crystal clear. My husband? He's a clueless idiot. He'll never figure out my affairs. Gasps. Forks dropped. Claire covered her mouth. Jenny blinked like she'd been slapped. Madison's smile collapsed. Her wine glass trembled in her hand. I turned the volume up. Played the second clip. I could do this every week, and he'd still buy me roses. Dead silence. She stood up. Tyler, what the hell is this? You're embarrassing me. No, I cut her off. You embarrassed yourself when you spread your legs for Brent in room 14 at the Valley Inn. On our anniversary week. Her face drained of color. Jenny stood up. Is that true? She asked, voice shaking. Madison stuttered. No. That's out of context, he's twisting things. He's making it sound worse than it is. I held up the motel receipt. Her signature. Dated. Stamped. Everyone stared at her like they didn't know her anymore. Because they didn't. She tried to play the victim. You're sick, Tyler. You recorded me? You spied on me like some psycho? I leaned in. I gave you trust. You gave me lies. Now I'm giving you exactly what you earned. She slapped me. Right there. In front of everyone. Claire gasped. My mom stood up. My dad clenched his fists. Madison stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots. I watched her leave. I didn't follow. Instead, I raised my glass and said, to clarity. People didn't know what to say. Some excused themselves. Others patted my shoulder in silence. The illusion had shattered. And Madison? Her reign was over. But the aftermath? That was just getting started. Madison didn't come home that night. And for once, I didn't care. I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't ask where she was. Let her crawl into whatever hole she ran to. The truth was out, the mask ripped off. The real Madison, self-obsessed, manipulative, smug, was finally exposed. She thought she'd shatter me by cheating. She thought I'd beg, break, cry. But I didn't shed a single tear. I wasn't broken. I was awake. The next morning, I took action. I started with our joint bank account. Transferred my half to a new personal account. Froze the shared credit cards. She could keep the lies, not the money. By 10 a.m., I was sitting across from my lawyer, Daniel, in a quiet downtown office. She's going to come after you for alimony, he warned. She'll have to get in line, I said. Because I'm coming for blood. I laid everything on the table, audio files, GPS logs, text records, motel bookings. Daniel's eyebrows kept rising as he flipped through the evidence. You weren't just betrayed, he said. You were mocked. I nodded. And now I'm done playing nice. We filed the divorce papers that afternoon. Grounds? Infidelity. Public humiliation. Mental cruelty. Meanwhile, Madison was trying to clean up the wreckage. She called Jenny. Claire. Even my mom. spinning some wild story that I was a controlling freak who hacked her phone and set her up. Nobody bought it. She was scrambling. And it was glorious. That evening, she showed up at the house. I was on the patio, drinking a beer, calm as the sky before a storm. She barged in like a tornado, red-eyed, makeup smudged, fury in every step. "You think you can humiliate me like that and just get away with it?" she snapped. I didn't even flinch. "Funny. That's exactly what you did for months." Her arms crossed. "Brent says you're a psycho. That you're obsessed. That this is all some toxic revenge fantasy." I leaned forward, smiling coldly. "Brent doesn't matter. He was just your distraction. I was your reality. And now it's gone." She stepped closer. "You think anyone's going to love you after this? After how bitter and dramatic you look?" I laughed. "Better bitter than blind. And honestly, anyone would be better than you." Boom. That hit. I saw it in her eyes. For once, the power wasn't hers. And she hated it. "You're a monster," she hissed. "No," I said. "I'm just your mirror. You don't like what you see? That's not my fault." She tried one last play. Tears. Crocodile ones. "We were just off balance, Tyler. I made a mistake. But I still love you. Don't throw away 5 years." I stood up. Walked over. "You threw them away the moment you opened that motel door. The moment you laughed at me. You didn't just cheat, you enjoyed humiliating me. You crossed a line you can't uncross." She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand. "No more words. Just get your things and go. I already changed the locks. You've got 1 hour." She stared at me, silent, stunned. Then, for the first time in years, she backed down. She packed in silence. Didn't even say goodbye. The front door slammed shut behind her like the final note in a symphony of lies. And me? I exhaled. It felt like freedom. I wasn't mourning. I was rebuilding. Brick by brick. Without her. The silence after Madison left was deafening, but not in a lonely way. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, I didn't have to question the tone in her voice, or the smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I wasn't decoding lies, replaying conversations in my head, or wondering who she was texting under the table. The house was still. Empty. But clean, honest. That Monday, I changed everything. New locks, new passwords, even a fresh coat of paint in the bedroom. I wanted no trace of her left behind. I pulled the photos off the walls, boxed up her dresses, even threw out the scented candles she used to light when pretending she was still a good wife. And then I opened a new folder on my computer, The Truth. Inside, I dropped every voice recording. Every screenshot. Every piece of evidence. Not to use as a weapon, but as a reminder. I refused to ever be that naive again. Meanwhile, Madison tried damage control. Text started rolling in. I overreacted. "Can we talk? You're not thinking clearly. Let's be adults. We can fix this. Please." Fix what? The shattered trust? The way she laughed about my stupidity while lying in another man's bed? No. I ignored her for a week. Until she showed up again, this time, unannounced. I opened the door just enough to meet her eyes. She looked off. Makeup perfect. Hair done. But her energy? Desperate. "I just want to talk," she said softly. "Just 5 minutes." I stepped aside. Not because I wanted to hear her excuses, but because I needed to look her in the eye one more time. We sat across from each other. She scanned the house. Saw what was gone. Felt what had changed. "You really erased me," she said, more shocked than hurt. I stayed silent. Then she said something that would have shattered me weeks ago, but now just pissed me off. I only cheated because I felt alone. You were always working, always tired. I needed to feel wanted. I scoffed. So you gave yourself to a stranger? And told him I was a clueless idiot? That was a joke. No. That was you being real for once. Don't try to rewrite it. Her face hardened. You think you're so righteous. But you're vindictive, Tyler. Cold. I leaned in. I wasn't cold. I was loyal. You mistook that for weakness. Now you don't like how strong I've become without you. She bit her lip. Eyes flickering, probably searching for a way to guilt-trip me. But that door was shut. For good. You're seriously divorcing me? No. I'm freeing myself from you. The look on her face, like she'd just lost a game she didn't realize she was playing, was better than revenge. She stood, tried to smile. You'll regret this. I opened the door. No. You will. And I meant it. After she left, I sat down and reread the messages she'd sent Brent. The ones I'd pulled from her cloud account before she realized I had access. Tyler's boring. Predictable. A robot in a husband's costume. I fake everything, he never even notices. Every lie. Every little betrayal. I absorbed it. Not to torture myself, but to harden my resolve. By Friday, Daniel called. The court had accepted the motion for fault-based divorce. She'd get nothing. No house. No support. Just her clothes and her regrets. She tried to fight it, but Brent bailed. Of course he did. He didn't sign up for the fallout. He wanted the game, not the mess. Madison was officially alone. Me? I was free. And finally, I could breathe again. When I tell people the hardest part was letting go, I'm lying. The hardest part was not reacting. Not reacting when she smiled after a night of betrayal. Not reacting when she called me an idiot behind my back. Not reacting when she begged me to act like an adult after I'd exposed her in front of family and friends. But now? Now, I wasn't just reacting, I was rebuilding. Without her. Without the weight of pretending things were okay. First step, therapy. Not because I was broken. But because I refused to carry her poison into my next chapter. My therapist, Mark, was blunt. You're not crazy, Tyler. You were gaslit. Lied to. Mocked. You're not here to fix yourself. You're here to rewire the way you see betrayal. And that hit me harder than any of Madison's cheap shots ever could. Because he was right. I had spent so long second-guessing myself, wondering if I was overthinking, overreacting. But the truth? My instincts had been screaming at me for months. I just chose to love louder than I listened. Never again. The second step was cutting off the echo, mutual friends who tried to stay neutral. I didn't need anyone playing both sides. If you could look at what Madison did and still sit on the fence, you weren't someone I needed in my corner. Claire stayed. Jenny too. Even my brother, who'd never liked Madison, sent me a text. You should have burned her suitcase, not just packed it. He wasn't wrong. But the fire was already doing its work, just slower, deeper, cleaner. One night, while clearing out a drawer, I found an old journal. Madison had started it during our first year of marriage. The entries were sweet. Hopeful. Full of promises about forever, about never hurting each other. It read like fiction now. And weirdly, I didn't feel pain reading it. I felt relief. Because that version of her? That woman didn't exist. She was a mask. A character in a script that ended the moment she stepped into room 14. A week later, she sent one final text. I miss you. Not the drama. Not the mess. Just, you. Please, can we talk one last time? And I stared at it for a long time. I thought about replying. About sending her a picture of Brent's gym with a caption like, "Go talk to your backup plan." But I didn't. I just blocked her. Because closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. And I'd already made mine. Life started moving again. My appetite returned. I started sleeping through the night without jolting awake from imaginary arguments. I stopped checking her socials, stopped wondering if she was crying, thriving, or already cheating on her next poor victim. That was her world now. I had my own to build. And surprisingly, I felt stronger. Not angry. Not bitter. Just clean. I went back to the gym. Picked up old hobbies, photography, hiking, even started reading again. Not books about betrayal or healing, but thrillers, sci-fi, stuff that reminded me there was more to life than heartbreak and lawyers. People at work noticed. "You look different," they'd say. I did. Because I wasn't carrying her anymore. Her guilt, her weight, her rot. I'd scrubbed it all out of my system. And in its place was me. Just me. The version of myself she never wanted me to become, because it meant I wouldn't need her anymore. And I didn't. Not even a little. The funny thing about people like Madison? They don't really believe the consequences will catch up to them. She thought I'd eventually soften. That after a few months of silence, I'd miss her enough to call. Maybe drunk dial her one night. Maybe show up at her door just to argue, which for her, would still mean she mattered. But I didn't. And that silence? It didn't just eat at her, it devoured her. 3 months after I filed, Jenny messaged me. "Have you seen Madison's new Insta post?" "No," I replied. Blocked her the day she walked out. She sent a screenshot. Madison was sitting alone on a park bench, dressed up like she was trying too hard to look unbothered. Caption: "Some chapters end without closure. Others just prove who never deserved a seat in your future." It screamed desperation. She wasn't rising. She was crumbling. Brent? Gone. Someone told me he ghosted her after she started talking about long-term plans. Guess the fantasy gets boring once reality moves in. According to mutuals, she tried dating again. But every guy saw through the performance within a few weeks. You can only play the victim so long before people start asking questions. Word spread. About the motel. About the voice recordings. About what she said behind my back. Her reputation, polished, curated, filtered, began to rot from the inside. Meanwhile, I kept rising. The house? Mine. My savings? Untouched. The people who mattered? Still standing beside me. I remember running into her at a grocery store. Total accident. I turned the corner of an aisle, and there she was. Pale, thinner, pushing a half-empty cart like she was sleepwalking. Her eyes widened when she saw me. She gave this hesitant smile. Like she thought I might break the tension with a joke or a wave. I didn't. I just nodded once. Calm. Collected. Unshaken. And I walked past her without a word. Not out of spite. Out of power. Because nothing stings like being completely irrelevant to someone you once thought you owned. She didn't follow me. She didn't speak. She just stood there, holding a bag of apples like her world had just shrunk to the size of a shopping aisle. That night, she texted from a new number. "It was really good to see you. You look strong." I didn't reply. Because I was strong. Stronger than she'd ever expected. Stronger than I'd ever been with her in my life. Every piece of pain she gave me had been turned into armor. Every lie she whispered became motivation. She thought she broke me. But she built me. Brick by brick. I went home that night, poured myself a whiskey, and sat on the patio watching the sunset. Not thinking about her. Not even replaying what happened. Just existing. Free. Clean. Unattached. I used to think closure came in some big dramatic conversation, tears, final words, maybe even forgiveness. But real closure? It comes in silence. In not needing to explain yourself. In not needing them to understand. In finally understanding your own worth. And I had it now. Fully. Madison's story wasn't mine anymore. She was just a scar, one I didn't try to hide. Because every scar tells a story. And mine? Mine says I survived her. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes when you've walked through hell and made it out on the other side without burning. Not many people talk about what happens after the storm, when the chaos settles, the rage fades, and the heartbreak dulls into something quieter. Not sadness. Not numbness. Just understanding. And that's what I was left with. Madison wasn't just the woman who cheated on me. She was the mirror I didn't know I needed, reflecting back every blind spot, every inch of trust one gave too easily, every red flag I ignored out of comfort and fear. I didn't hate her anymore. Let me be clear, I didn't forgive her. Forgiveness is for people who show remorse. Who own their destruction and try to rebuild what they broke. Madison never did. She just moved on, well, tried to. Floated from one guy to another. Tried to recreate what she had with me, minus the loyalty, the consistency, the depth. But you can't build something real on a foundation of lies. Every relationship she touched after ours eventually fell apart. Word got around. And people started to see her for who she really was, not a misunderstood victim, but a professional manipulator who thought the rules didn't apply to her. And me? I stopped dating for a while. Not because I was scared. But because I wanted to reconnect with myself first. I spent years trying to be the perfect husband. The provider. The protector. And in the end, none of that protected me from betrayal. So I relearned how to be alone. How to enjoy silence. How to walk into an empty home and feel peace instead of loneliness. One night, I looked through old photos on my phone, vacations, anniversaries, little candid shots she used to love posting. I didn't delete them. I didn't need to. They didn't hold power over me anymore. They were just proof of a life I outgrew. Eventually, I did start seeing someone new. Slowly. Carefully. Her name was Erin. She wasn't flashy or full of games. She didn't pretend to be perfect. She was real, in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. And I told her everything. Not to scare her away, but because I refused to hide the truth of what shaped me. She respected it. Listened without judgment. No jealousy. No competition with a ghost. One evening, she asked me, "Do you think you ever really loved her?" And I answered honestly. I loved the version of her I thought was real. The woman I built in my head. But no. I didn't really love Madison. I loved a mask. That was the final nail. The last thread snapping loose. From that moment on, I was truly free. Now, I live by a few simple rules. 1. Pay attention to patterns, not apologies. 2. Love is trust, but trust must be earned, not assumed. 3. If someone laughs while hurting you, they were never worth your tears. I don't need revenge. I don't stalk her pages. I don't ask how she's doing. I don't care. Because the truth is, Madison didn't ruin me. She revealed me. She peeled back the version of me that was naive, forgiving to a fault, addicted to the illusion of loyalty. She made me sharper. Wiser. Stronger. So if you're reading this, and you've been where I was, betrayed, broken, humiliated, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not weak for loving. You're not foolish for trusting. But you are powerful when you finally walk away. Madison was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And, in a twisted way, the best. Because she taught me everything I'll never tolerate again.